Our story begins on a kind of film set where it was time for the members. Secondaries enter. Our prota was reflecting in his mind that every time he does this he gets a little nervous. But just at that moment, some people commented that there was something strange. And the moment the MC look where they were pointing, several pieces of debris start to fall, and of course it falls on top of him. And so he began to reflect that he had always been cast as a mere nameless extra. However, he still wanted to be an actor in case he had a new life, or rather in his next life he wanted to be the protagonist. And then we are transported to another place where a couple was talking to his son, whose name was Lee Seo-jun. And that was Lee Seo-jun, only 7 months old, and what he was like. Too cute. It's obvious that your mom and dad are feeling his cuteness attack. And this little boy's mother is Seo Yoon-hae and the father the Lee Min-young. But like the Seo-jun, he was a little baby, it's just obvious that he would be sleepy, right? And seeing this, their parents wish to him a good night. But for those who haven't noticed yet, this is our protagonist. And somehow he was born and died repeatedly countless times without having your memory erased, and at the end of it all, so many memories accumulated, so he created a kind of library of life where his memories and skills were kept in the form of books, and the doors containing the books were firmly closed so that only the memories that suit the body can be opened. It's like this: if he uses a body with a limit below the necessary to absorb the books would simply destroy him, so it was better that he didn't do that. And so the proto went through several doors, and he arrived in a little blue one. And in reality that was a library from when he was a slime, but as his neck couldn't support the weight of his head, he fell backwards, and he was a little angry, right? Because if it had been the same before, he would have already opened that door and walked in. And to make matters worse, the development of a human baby is very slow. However, next to that door there was another even smaller door, but this one was black. And Seo-jun, I had never remembered that door, and when I said the door was small, it wasn't small, no friends, it was small to the point where the baby couldn't get past it. Anyway, MC managed to pull the book out of there, and in the book it was written, I was always cast as a mere extra no name. I still want to be an actor if I have a new life, or rather I want to be the protagonist in my next life. And it was then Para finally remembered. That book recounted his first life, and seeing this he began to reflect. If there was ever a time in his entire life that he lived as seriously as he had lived until now, to the point of wanting to become someone, and from what he remembers he didn't, so he had already set his first goal of life. He would become a great actor, but like a great actor wouldn't become a great celebrity. But then the question comes, what does he need to do to become a celebrity? And the first thing he did was practice an elf's breathing consistently since he was reborn and gained consciousness this second on the screen. System there, she harmonized the body and makes it shine, which is very strange that MC was going to become what, a lamp? Anyway, removing that black door on your side, Seo-jun, there was only the slime door of life, and the library was like the first day he was just a little slime. And while strolling near a dragon's lair looking for food, he was hit by the breath of a dragon that was dozing, and probably that had been his yawn, and died. And 3 days after that he was born. So he started to look around the library to see if there was anything else, but he also picked up a book about fairies, and the only thing the slime said in the book was can be melted in an acidic solution and extend tentacles outward to change shape. And leaving that aside, then PRA remembered that he was a fairy once, and if remembering that he was once a fairy, he could look like one, right? Only the problem of being a fairy is that if the flower dies, the owner also dies. That's how the protagonist saw all the books in that collection, and after a while he had finally found something, and it was the digestive system of a slime that could digest anything and gain a lot more nutrients from it, which would be very good, right, for a baby who is in a growth phase. And the other thing he had found was a fairy wand, and its function was very simple. If he shook it all, those who were looking at him would copy him, and what would he do with that wand? I don't know, let's see. That's how it is. Seo-jun integrated that slime intestine, and now all that was missing was a fairy wand, and she was kind of engraved on the MC's hand, which was very discreet, right? Anyway, it wouldn't make a difference since its effect would work the same way, and to see if it was working, he shook his hand a little and it glowed, which means it was on. And a while later MC was there playing with his Lich King doll, and like, he had other normal baby toys, but he only played with that one. And some friends Yoon-hae, when she was complaining that her son wasn't eating, she declared that the doctor had said there was nothing wrong with him, and apparently there were a lot of mothers there, because there were 2 others complaining that their children weren't eating either, because from what they remembered, the more eat the stronger they get. and at that moment the MC started crying for food. But at the moment he did this, and the other babies also started crying. So you must be wondering why the MC cried. He has a mind of several lives. The problem is that he can't say anything, so if he doesn't cry he won't eat. While the other mothers were struggling to feed their children, Seo-jun took it easy, and taking advantage of this chance he wanted to use that fairy wand, but he didn't know if it would have any effect, and so he activated, and that made the babies start looking at him. And as I said before, when Seo-jun activated this wand, then everyone who, if they were looking at it, they would start copying it, and the babies actually started taking their bottles. And obviously the mothers were totally surprised, and they even started calling MC the mukbang of the baby world. And for those who don't know, the word mukbang is a combination of two Korean words called mukja, which is let's eat, and buang song, which is to convey. And taking this into account, the mothers there asked Yoonhye if they could record the MC eating, and she was asking for it because she was worried about her daughter, since she was smaller than the others and didn't eat very well, but because of Seo-jun she ate properly. And Yoonhye stated that her son was a little bigger than the others, so she didn't. Should take into account that the woman started crying, which had an effect on Ia, and his daughter too started to cry, and the MC tried to help, right, by making the girl not cry using the wand again. But he ended up making a mistake, cause the babies started to gather everything on top of him, and he began to suffocate. And after everyone had left, already at dinner, Yoonhye started to explain to Minyoung the whole situation that happened until about that thing they called Seo-jun the mukbang of the baby world. And taking a look at MC's joke, I think he's pretty violent. But I think it makes sense, right? A slime hitting the dragon, and even his father thought it was strange, but he didn't know the lore behind that joke. But Yoonhye keeps saying that it had been expressed by all the babies. What Claro took the Minyoung by surprise, but Yoonhye, he explained that it wasn't in that regard. He had just become a little more popular, and the MC was there all excited, but that's because he was rapping in dragon. Oh, and Yoonhye also added that she had recorded him taking a piece of wood, and as it was Papa time, she also wanted to record it, and so Minyoung also helped while MC was there recording video. He thought about whether he should use the wand, but he didn't know how, since swinging his arm with the symbol in his hand seems very strange. But he'd never done it before, so it probably wouldn't be weird, right? Anyway, he tried. It's your mother, she didn't even think it was strange. She just asked if the food was very tasty. Leaving that aside, Seo-jun managed to finish eating and then finished the video. That's how it is. Yoonhye sent the videos there for your friends. And the woman there was very anxious. It's a while later Yoonhye received a message, which was one of the mothers saying that her son ate all his food. And 2 weeks later, that woman who had texted Yoonhye, I was thanking her because her daughter started eating more and was praised by the doctors. And the other mothers also started saying that with that video that the MC had made, all their children were eating a lot more. Oh, and as the mothers were happy, the children started to smile with happiness too. And listening to this conversation, the MC was a little surprised because the fairy's wand was effective even in the video, and that meant it would be easier for him to become a big star. But for those who were watching the Seo-jun outside while he thought this was, thinking he was crazy, and returning to the mother's side, one of them asked Yoonhye why didn't she post that video on YouTube, and she was recommending this because she also posted videos there, and she was actually posting more video because her daughter started eating more lately, and there were many comments asking her to teach how she made her daughter eat so much like that. It's like, it's obvious that she didn't talk about MC in the video, right? So for now, she just mentioned the brand of powdered milk she used and the baby food recipes that her daughter eats. And she was talking to Yoonhye make this video because had generated a lot of repercussion. Just that Yoonhye, she was a little afraid. Didn't she want to show her son's face to the world? And she even wanted to ask the Seo-jun that he just thought he was there playing with making a magic circle on the floor. And upon this, she declared that she would see her husband first. And speaking of him, he was looking at a photo and realized that children really grow up quickly. And at that moment, a little guy with glasses arrived next to Minyoung, and that was the guy Kim, a friend of his, asking if he liked the orc he had given him. And hearing about it, the Minyoung, he even got tired. At the beginning, the Kim, he thought the MC wouldn't like it very much. But Seo-jun, as I said, is a little crazy and even slept in the toy box so much that he left the poor rabbit aside there. Oh, and obviously Yoonhye was a little more centered than the two there. And of course the Kim, he took one hell of a sermon from Yoonhye because that type of toy was not meant to be given to a child, and Minyoung went on to say that that toy he had given had become completely mandatory now. In this he showed what Kim he that one video of the MC eating baby food, and seeing this Kim he asked Minyoung if he liked the camera because he was waving his hand so excitedly, or better yet, if you look a little closer, he was born to be actor, so the MC's plan is working for now. Right, if even the people outside are talking. And returning home, Minyoung, I was playing with him, and the Kim I had given him some kind of script since Seojun like dialogues. Realistic, but obviously for a grown man to keep telling such nonsense, he would be embarrassed, right? And he was even thinking about giving up, just obvious, that the MC wasn't going to let him, and so he insisted a little more, but of course with great shame, and the MC was a bit pistol whipped, right? And Yoonhye noticed, saying that he should add a little more emotion to his reading since Seojun noticed that he was discouraged. It's like the two of them started talking to each other. The MC got angry with his father and told him to stop talking to his mother. Obviously he didn't say anything, he just kept shouting. That's how he ended the performance, and unfortunately King Ike died. Or rather the MC defeated him, and the animal was all happy, and I don't know why, there's probably a lore behind it. Also, but leaving that joke aside, Yoonhye got to the main point, commenting that she was thinking about publishing Seojun's video on YouTube. However, Minyoung asked if this wouldn't be a problem since I could see this video when he grows up and be very angry, but probably not since he's a baby. Sometimes he'll never find this video. And another could also be possible that he liked being in front of the cameras, because like in that video there of him eating baby food, he was so excited when the camera turned on, but in reality we know, which was because of the fairy's wand, right? And Yoonhye questioned if he really only got excited when he had a camera on, and Minyoung replied, which was obvious because just now I wasn't complaining about his false performance. And hearing this comment, they were both surprised, and then they noticed that their son was really amazing, because how did he know his acting was that bad? It's just that they don't know that the MC can understand everything they say. And seeing this, Minyoung was completely happy, saying that her son was a genius, so they should make him act. Well, with that kind of response, she was going to publish the videos on YouTube, right? And since that video had already helped her friends, maybe it wouldn't be a problem to help other people too. That's how Yoonhye started to create the channel, and she needed to add a title in English and Korean and then create the channel. And when it comes to the name, they added June, which is like an abbreviation of the MC's name. And so Yoonhye published the first video and informed her friend who had a YouTube channel. And of course she quickly declared that she would spread her channel. And so a time passed, and the video spread more and more, and the post in the community of that friend of Yoonhye's channel had already reached incredible 1,293 comments. Then I ask you, what are they going to do now? Okay, but leaving that situation aside, let's raise a point like when you're reborn, it's normal to forget almost everything, except two things: the basic elf breathing and the basic genie breathing. And after putting a pacifier in his mouth, the MC activated the elf's basic breathing, which I hadn't even said at the beginning. It creates a presence of light so the para doesn't turn into a lamp, and causes mana to flow, harmonizing the user's body, and clashes with evil type breathing. And these two breathing methods help create each type of vigor, and after knowing how much effect it has on a body, Newborn the MC chose one to completely internalize his breathing method. Oh, while the Seojun, I was thinking about it, and his father appeared asking if he was awake yet. Anyway, the biggest benefit of these two breathing methods is their stability, because if someone interferes during breathing, or if there is a need to stop immediately, he can finish it safely, since he used it several times during his life as a weak monster, when he didn't even have a minute to let his guard down. And so, a while later, he was taken to the room where the Yoonhye was playing on her phone, and there was an annoying notification noise. Oh, and of course she hung up, right? She explained that they were people who were sending messages to the MC, which doesn't make much sense, right? But it was because of his video, and about that video they posted on YouTube, everything was crazy. Oh, and for those who don't know, YouTube is a site that people from all over world post their videos, and because of them many people became celebrities that even appear on TV, but that we already know, right? However, most impressively was that PRA's video got 1 million views. Now, it makes sense to have so many notifications on her cell phone, right? And Yoonhye already went to ask her friend, right? Questioning what those absurd numbers were. And Yoonhye's friend simply replied that the Seojun became a star. Oh, and of course she should hurry to monetize the channel and earn profits. And hearing this, Minyoung asked that friend if there were any requirements to do this, because from what he had heard, if he wasn't a famous person, it would be difficult to do this in just 1 or 2 days. But I don't think it would be a problem, right? Since Prota had a 1 million video on channel and 210,000 subscribers. Oh, and it keeps going up even more as they talk. It's like the MC was very hungry. He started to cry, right? While bottle feeding Minyoung was fine. Tired thinking about the situation, questioning if it was a dream. In this, Yoonhye managed to sign up the channel for monetization, but leaving that aside, for the moment he wanted to know what people were commenting on the video. Oh, and since the title was also in English, Pra's mother could understand because she was a Korean teacher for foreigners, and the vast majority were saying that their children didn't eat well. Started eating after watching the video. While they were talking, MC was a little uncomfortable in the position he was in. It's obvious that he slapped his father's arm, right? I said it for the love of God. And now even Minyoung was getting a lot of notification, and it was from none other than Kim Hee, and the reason was that the video even became news on social media, and there were on several websites, oh, and of course, and also several forums. And since there were a lot of people commenting, it's obvious that there would be a lot of information, right? Firstly, it wouldn't have an effect on those over 1 year and 8 months, and it made sense, right? Since the fairy wand is of a lower level, it's because there is an amount of mana needed to use any skill, and in the library of life, there is not only the fairy's wand. Several other high-level skills that can make all people copy him is that he can't open that big door, so he doesn't have the ability to recover those skills, which makes sense, right? Because it was very difficult to gain skills with a baby's body, and it was so bad to have this baby's body that he didn't even have the strength to hold a bottle. And of course with fatherly reflexes, Minyoung managed to grab the bottle, and he was even a little angry, telling Seo-jun to warn him that he had finished eating. But then I thought, like Yoonhye, how would an 8-month-old child say that he had finished eating? However, Minyoung replied that he was a genius. After all, he understood everything they said, but that's how all parents think when they think their children. Your children are geniuses. And now moving to another side, there was a marketing leader called Kang Sora saying that they were in trouble because of Lala, who is that friend Yoonhye who has a channel, and the problem is that she had posted a new video on YouTube saying that the effects of drinking and eating were because of the baby mukbang and not the milk powder. Oh, and so we can understand this about Choi Hyun, the head of the elephant product planning team. And like, until now Lala, that friend of Yoonhye's, was advertising their product on her channel. And of course they had a large number of sales, so much so that they had orders on the foreign market, and so much was ordered that stocks were soon exhausted. And that's why they increased production, and she was already getting sad thinking that Lala would resign, because it's more or less like that in current times. Instead of famous celebrities, there are many cases where YouTube stars fit better into a certain product market and are cast in advertisements, and they were even thinking about seeing a proposal to cast Lala and your daughter for an advertisement. But the problem is that she had advertised for another channel, and Choi didn't understand very well, because the videos on the MC's channel only had a maximum of 2 minutes. Just looking at some posts from that video, she saw that there was a tab saying to prove that your baby was eating because of him, and seemed to be very engaged. And that's why she would try, or rather she would try to do a commercial with Seo-jun, and she was already praying for MC to help her. And a while later Seo-jun got a new teddy bear, but this time he was normal. However, this teddy bear came from none other than Kim Hee, and to sort of throw off the MC's father, he commented that while watching the video of Seo-jun eating him, he could see a two-headed troll behind the chair, and hearing this he became very worried because that video was for children. And quickly he went to see the video if it was there, and seeing Seo-jun's reaction, Kim Hee asked him if he was a little disappointed for having brought him a normal-looking toy, and the MC agreed with him. But seeing this Kim, he was very disappointed because he was underestimating his uncle too much, so he should look good carefully, because inside that zipper right there was an evil mini doppelganger. And at this the MC was very excited that he is a teddy bear who can control a bear. Oh, but obviously it would be a secret between them, right? And since Seo-jun couldn't say anything, it's obvious that it would remain a secret. And in the end Minyoung fought with Kim Hee because he didn't find anything in the video. It's a while later at MC's house again, there was that meeting of mothers, and now they were discussing that commercial for powdered milk for babies, and one of them stated that they should remove the lens powder commercials, which have a bad reputation among mothers, and the other replied yes, because they should keep Seo-jun's image alive. And Yoonhye didn't understand a lot because they weren't going to make any commercials, but the mothers there already knew that companies would take advantage of this moment to use Seo-jun's image to sell their products. And hearing this, Yoonhye replied that he liked the elephant brand, They even tried other brands, but he didn't like it very much, and the other mothers seemed to be in the same boat as her. And before that, one of them thought, why didn't they ask the brand if they could do a commercial with Seo Jun, and they were all kind of already agreeing that it would sell a lot, and even Yoonhye was agreeing with it, but first she was going to see it with her husband, right? And a while later, the moment he got home, he quickly supported the idea. And so the next day when MC Ja, I was almost asleep, Minyoung had finally arrived, and he had a contract for the commercial, but he was a little drunk. He even tried to kiss Seo Jun, but it's obvious that Yoonhye didn't let him, and after they calmed down a little, he explained that the filming would take about 30 minutes while Seo Jun ate, and if they needed more filming they would do it the next day. Oh, and of course one filming after another would only be done after the prota did the digestion, but Yoonhye asked if it would be possible with just 30 minutes. However, Minyoung replied that according to them, it's okay if more than that happens, as long as it comes out like the videos on YouTube. It was good, and it would be more or less like this, that the recording would be uploaded to sites like YouTube first and then aired in TV commercials, and the contract would be for a period of 3 months. And another one in the contract also had no hidden clauses according to what he had seen with his lawyer friend. Oh, and that was one of the reasons he arrived drunk. And in the face of all this, they could sign the contract, right? And even Seo Jun agreed that they could sign. But at that moment, Yoonhye took some ink and put her finger in it. After all, because it is his commercial, he should sign the contract. Also, so obviously they had to take that photo to mark the moment, right? And so finally their first contract worked out, but while their parents were happy there, the MC started to wonder which skill he should get, and he had even searched for a while but couldn't find a suitable skill. And like this time, he needs a skill that works on adults to make them want to buy something. And looking to the side, he ended up finding a book that was so in front of his face and he didn't even notice. It's a while later in the commercial studio. Choi introduced herself to Minyoung and Yoonhye, and she would show everything there, and the place where they were going to film was very similar to the living room at home, which made sense, right? They had to make a similar commercial, so Choi took them to a waiting room because they needed to do a final touch. But since she had other things to deal with, they could feel free and anything they should call her. While Minyoung was looking at the place, Yoonhye was very excited about that many toys. But even in light of that, it's obvious that the MC was going to release the teddy bear he won, right? Anyway, he hoped everything would go as he had planned. But there was one thing that the MC always forgot. He was a baby, and his head was too heavy for his body, and so he ended up falling forward. However, to understand a little of this power that the MC was talking about, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there was an old man who was trying to tell a happy story for children, and the story he was going to tell is from a time when he was a little younger than them. One day, under a tree in a nearby forest, he found a small chest, and he looked so beautiful that he ended up taking him to the village. But there was a problem. That chest was a monster called Mimic. However, no one in the village knew what that was, and since then people started calling that little trunk miming and the treated like part of the family. And the old man admitted that sometimes when miming took the form of a chest, he gave wanting to try to open it, but leaving that aside, they were very good friends. He even shared the food and played with him. Everything was very peaceful. But a few years later, a warrior arrived in the village, and he declared that he had a very strong demon hiding in the surroundings, and he was there to try to get rid of him. But just at that moment, the miming arrived, and the warrior quickly put himself on guard, asking why there was a mimic there. But the child version of the old man protected the miming, and the warrior explained that that monster there came from deep dungeons, so he should defeat it. But just at that moment, miming left the little boy's arms, and then it took its shape like a chest. And the moment he did so, the warrior was tempted to try and open the chest, and the thought that there would be jewels inside it crossed his mind. But the moment he tried to do this, Mimic returned to normal, and the warrior was very scared because he was captivated in a matter of seconds, and he didn't know that a mimic could cause such a strong temptation. And seeing those powers of miming, the knight had proposed that as long as the demon was distracted by the charms of miming, he would have the chance to defeat him. It is obvious that he would be in danger because all villagers loved miming, and of course they didn't agree with the plan, but miming sided with the knight. And after sunset, the warrior lured the demon that was hidden out of the darkness, and there he saw a table, beautiful with a beautiful chest on top, and people could only hear the voice of the devil. And the devil really fell into temptation, trying to open the miming because it was the first time he had seen a box as beautiful as that. But the moment he did that, the miming opened, and the warrior struck the demon. But because of his fury, the devil ended, crushing the mimic. And after that, the warrior gathered all his strength in his sword and finished off the demon in one fell swoop. But miming miming ended up dying, and with that the warrior and the people of the village created a water fountain and a statue as a symbol of thanks to the miming. And hearing this story, the children began to cry, and the old man declared that he was sure that God had allowed him to reincarnate in a new life, or maybe he was charming people while they were talking, and that mimic that was able to enchant the warrior and the demon and all the other people in the village was preparing to enchant a new world. And so it was time for them to start recording, and one of the people behind the camera asked if Seojun was that famous mukbang baby, because looking at him from there it looked like he was pretty ordinary, but it was still impressive for them that Seojun was so focused, since for his age this is not very normal. And so they ended the first scene with this. Minyoung commented that he hadn't waved his arms, maybe it was because of the feeding bottle, but it wasn't that, it was that the MC had obtained an ability even better than the fairy wand. And why wasn't he using both, you ask? It's because the number of abilities he can use inside a baby's body is very limited. That's why he returned the fairy wand back to the library, and in its place he got a skill called covetousness. Small trunk mimic, and has the effect of making anyone lust after the object carried, and as the object had to be small, it was an ability that he could not use when he is an adult. And because these conditions are so complicated too, fulfilling this skill could be used even with the smallest traces of mana. Oh, and one more thing before they filmed the second scene would be the one where the baby would be smiling happily while hugging a can of their brand's powdered milk. And with a scene as complicated as this, it was almost certain that it wouldn't be done in just one take. But it's obvious that everyone there didn't have that kind of high expectation, so they were already waiting for it. However, MC's parents were very excited, and on Seojun's side he was relieved, because if there was nothing about hugging the can of powdered milk, he would have to cry until someone gave him a can. That's how he quickly uses skill on that elephant can. And the skill's effect was aimed at parents who have babies the age of MC, and the scene was already becoming beautiful in itself. There was just one part missing that Seojun did perfectly, and so the time taken to do all the filming of the commercial was 20 minutes, and with that the MC was quickly considered a genius. And the film director was telling MC's parents that he had to act now, because he knew everything he had to do just by instinct, even without understanding anything. And of course he wasn't asking them to play Seojun in the cinema or on TV now, but it would be good for them to start thinking about it, because future personality instinct. Seojun definitely had that, so he definitely has the talent to become an actor, so much so that even the filming director there said that if they wanted they could call whenever they needed their help. Oh, and after that, the MC received praise not only from the film director but even from the Choi and his assistant, and since they had done it so quickly, the proto would even receive some gifts from them. After all, it was almost certain they would sell all their stock. And some time later, in another location, more specifically in the States had a father wanting to feed his son. That's why he put up the MC's video, right? But at the moment that they entered the video had an ad, which was normal, right, since it had a lot of views, but in the ad there was none other than Seojun, and this surprised the parents of the little boy there. Then it came to that scene where Seojun smiled, showing the elephant's mark, and out of nowhere the parents just stopped and started searching incessantly on their cell phones, but unfortunately everything was sold out, and they were both extremely disappointed because they really wanted. Buying that powdered milk anyway meant that the effect of the MC skill was working. And speaking of him, he was there calmly drinking his bottle while Yoonhye was talking to her mother, saying that Silver had just left a filming. And hearing this, the MC was very proud, declaring to his grandmother, "In your mind that your grandson was a celebrity." And obviously hearing this, she was very happy, but her grandmother wanted it. No, when she wanted it to air on TV, since she didn't use YouTube much. And Yoonhye was a little confused, since should Chan help her with this, or did he not even tell her that his nephew was starring on TV, and he only found out now because she said it? And Seojun's grandma declared that he was busy with his new job, that's why he didn't say anything, and he was currently working at a celebrity management agency or something. And the MC barely remembered much about his uncle. He only remembered that he had a rude and threatening appearance, and when he is together with his mother he becomes Beauty and the Beast. And grandma goes on to say that she thinks the agency's name was Coco Entertainment and he was the director there. However, after the call ended, Yoonhye was a little angry, and how she was going to be busy for a while. She gave the Lich King to Seojun to play with, which was very strange because she hated that doll so much. However, she didn't even notice that because she was very involved with her brother, because her mother was very worried about him and he was wandering around. that's how she called him, right? It was at the moment he answered that he introduced himself as the director of Coco Entertainment, and that made her even more pistol, which I guess made sense since he was talking to the own sister and didn't remember her voice, or rather he didn't even save his sister's number, and only now the Songa manga there realized he was talking to his sister, and to make an excuse he asked if she had changed her number, but it had been the same number for 3 years. But leaving that aside, she commented that he wasn't going home much lately, and he replied that he was very busy with his job and such, but Yoonhye kept saying that their mother, she was worried about him, so he should take some time and go home. Oh, also he could drop by his house if he wanted, but he also had to save her number. That's how it is, Eun-chan. He said he was going to save her number and send a kiss to his nephew. It's good. Leaving that aside, Yoonhye was very happy that he finally got a good job. It was a while later that they ended up receiving a new email, and it was probably to make another announcement, right? And Yoonhye was going to take a look, since they were sending a massive amount of emails, but the email was coming from none other than Coco Entertainment, and hearing about this, the MC was already shocked, and they wanted to do a children's variety show. Then they found Seo Jun, who was a baby who won the hearts of babies all over the world with just one broadcast, and they expected a positive response from them. And the person who had sent this email was none other than Seo Eun-chan, also known as the director of Coco Entertainment. It's like Min Young wasn't aware of all this bullshit. He realized it was his brother-in-law, but Yoonhye was furious because her brother didn't recognize his nephew, and a while later she called him again, right, and again. He responded in the same way, introducing himself as director of Coco Entertainment, but Yoonhye followed the dance saying she called response to the email he had sent about the program, and with all the strength he had, the MC even tried to warn your uncle. However, Eun-chan was believing the saying that she was probably Seo Jun's mother, and hearing this, MC realized his uncle didn't save his mother's number, and she asked if they could meeting and such, and he quickly agreed and asked what the place and time was, and Yoonhye replied, "Come to your sister's house." But Eun-chan there is so stupid that he didn't understand at first. He was thinking it was some neighborhood name, and as Yoonhye had realized this, she shouted again that he should go to your sister's house right now, because there was no way he could be stupid enough to not recognize your nephew. Then only now did Eun-chan realize that it was his sister, and he hadn't even noticed that it was the same number he talked to just now. In short, he was very chipped because he didn't save the number, and then the sermon began. And Yoonhye started talking to him a lot, but some people were able to hear the conversation because Yoonhye was shouting a lot. They were laughing that Seo Jun was their director's nephew, and several of them were excited because the MC was a baby star with a channel of 200,000 subscribers, and looking at him, they looked nothing alike. And after resolving the whole being brother almost dying, Eun-chan declared that he was going to his sister's house to resolve some business.